1, go.
Okay guys, so I want to go over this. I know I said I was going to make a video a while ago. Sorry, I'm just getting to it now. About some of the programs you guys are seeing that are way broken down, like super remedial, almost borderline like Pilates plus some strength training. So basically the programs break down into 4 parts, okay? Mobility, obviously, then what we're going to call static stability, then we're dynamic stability, and then just pure strength, okay? So what does that look like? A lot of it is probably a lot of language that you guys aren't quite used to. So I want to try and explain the best I can. It's going to take some understanding on your guys' part, but then we're going to go from there. So over here I wrote down kind of basic stuff. So here's how this works. Mobility is mobility, right? Look through the book Supple Leopard, Google it with Kelly. Some of it I know is language, like QL smash, like what does that mean? You're just gonna have to Google it and look it up. You can figure it out, and then hopefully once you do it the first time, you'll figure it out for the rest of the time. A lot of smashing, a lot of foam rolling, much less joint capsule stuff. I'll probably end up working more of that in there. So static stability, what does that mean? What it basically we're getting at is getting the person into the position we want and getting them to hold that there. So a lot of that is going to come down to band stuff. We're going to use a lot of banded stuff where you're basically just holding it, the band's pulling you, and you're just holding that position, okay? So we've broken this down into 2 things, what I'm going to call basically shoulder position and posture, okay? So the hang position, you guys should basically know this, right? The hang is with your arms by your side, right? So, and I'll show you what this really looks like in practice, but the hang is going to be here. So you can imagine that the band is trying to pull me up, I'm going to hold it here. The front rack is the front rack, right? We're basically holding the band either as if it's a press or as if it's a front rack. Most likely a press. Again, I'll leave that up to your better judgment. Overhead is overhead. That makes sense, right? And then the press is the elbows behind the back, right? Can be here, but this would really be more front rack. Can be floor press, can be bench press, etc. But again, 4 positions. Hang, front rack, press, overhead. That would be static stability for the shoulder. Again, just holding the position. Then we're going to go through postures. So in order of difficulty, we have single leg posture, standing, half kneeling, kneeling, quadruped, supine. Fairly simple, right? So single leg would be very obvious. Single leg. Standing, very obvious. Standing. Then we have half kneeling. Half kneeling is basically this. 90-90, right? Can be either leg, switch legs accordingly, okay? Kneeling, full kneeling would obviously be this. Quadruped would be this. And then supine would be this, right? It makes fairly obvious sense. I'll get into some mechanics in a second. So that would be basically, those are static stability positions. Please, for the love of God, keep in mind, the static position is not just a throwaway thing. It's not just a position and hold it anyhow. It's really concentrating on getting tight and getting stable in those positions. So next we're going to talk about dynamic stability. What that means is whenever one half of the body is moving, the other is holding a static position. So I wrote over here 2 examples. Blank single arm pressing. Single arm pressing would be dynamic stability for the shoulder, right? You're moving the weight with the shoulder, which would require a static posture for the lower body, okay? So you can take your pick. You could do a standing single arm press, right? Or a half kneeling single arm press, or a full kneeling single arm press. You probably won't see a prone single arm press because you'd just be laying on the ground, right? But a single arm press would be in any of these postures. Because the upper body's moving, the lower body's stabilizing. Vice versa, leg lowering is pretty simple. I'll show it in a second. You would pick one of these postures, not you, but whatever's written in the program, will have one of these postures, these shoulder postures. So the leg is lowering while the shoulder is still holding a static position. We're trying to create kind of both, right? Creating dynamic and static stability at the same time, depending on the joint. Then I'll go over this very quickly. These are kind of my midline stability positions. So we have an upper body roll, a lower body roll, what we call a soft roll, and a hard roll. And then a couple breathing exercises. Kettlebell breathing and crocodile breathing. You'll see those pop up every now and then. But these are more for like really remedial midline stability stuff. Being able to control the midline. So I want to go through this. I want to show you guys some demos of what this looks like. So, for instance, take your pick again on exercise. Let's call it a single arm half kneeling press. So you take a dumbbell, half kneeling, we're pressing overhead, right? All we're trying to do, the focus is keeping stable. Now here's the really, really important part. The hip has to be stable. You have to drill the idea of squeezing your butt, keeping the pelvis neutral. Too many people you'll see will half kneel in this position with the hip totally turned over and they'll just press hanging out of their joint. We've got to make sure in this half position that the butt is tight, the legs at 90, right? But this butt stays on, belly basically stays hollowed out and tight the whole time. Even when people lay on the floor for prone stuff, you'll see them with their pelvis over-rotated forward. So your job is to pull that pelvis back flat to the floor. Super hollow position. Again, pulling the pelvis back flat and holding this position. So if we were doing a floor press or something, we cannot at any point let the pelvis pull off the floor. You guys should be able to see that on video, right? You can see this. This is no good. This is a faulted lift. It needs to be here. This is all that matters. So check this out. What does this look like in practice? Let's say, for instance, off our video, we have a single leg lowering, right, with the arms in a press position. So I'm going to take a band. I'm going to hold the shoulder in a press. Well, let's call it an overhead position, just because I don't have to get the bench. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay flat, grab the band, pull it overhead. So now I'm in this good overhead position. I'm in that externally rotated here, right? My back is flat to the floor. I'm going to raise my legs up, and I'm just going to try and lower them without my back coming off the floor. It's really easy to do that and then come back up. The exact opposite of what we're looking for. We need to make sure that the back is flat to the floor, arms overhead, and we're just lowering the legs really, really slowly, butt tight, and then coming back up. This is more or less an ab exercise, practically fucking Pilates. So you have to make sure that back is flat. The minute you see any overextension, it's hard. This is gonna be so fucking hard for people, it's not even funny. So a couple scales is just lowering the range of motion. So we'll just go from here. Maybe we just get to here. Where's the back break? Stop them short of that. So maybe it's just to here, back up. And we're just working on getting lower and lower and lower. Butt tight, belly tight. Right, again, butt is trying to squeeze, pulling that pelvis flat, and I'm trying to actively hollow out my stomach, pull my stomach in towards my back, creating a really tight position. So if you see this Poochie belly, right, where the belly shoots out, that's a fault. If you see the hip tilt over, that's a fault. Those are no good lifts. You're not teaching them anything, you're not getting any better, okay? So, a couple examples again. Static posture at the lower body means dynamic mobility of the upper body. Static position of the upper body means dynamic of the lower body, okay? The rolling positions are a little bit different. They're very simple, but not easy. It's unbelievably difficult for some of these people who have no spinal control. So for an upper body roll, it's basically gonna look like this. I'm gonna lay flat, hands overhead. I'm gonna start with my head, I'm just gonna turn to the side I'm going to, reach my shoulder over, and think about pulling myself over. So I look, pull, over. I'm not pushing with my feet, I'm not pushing with my hands, I'm trying just to with my arm. Lower body roll, same idea, right? So I'm just gonna look to the side I wanna go, reach my foot over, just try and pull myself over with my hips. Same idea, I look over this way, pull myself over with my hips. A soft pull would effectively be taking something and pinching it between my arm and knee, right? So it doesn't matter what. I'm gonna be here, I'm pinched tight, arm overhead, leg straight, and I'm just gonna turn. It's gonna be really hard. I'm gonna turn over, and then I'm gonna come back. It's a lot harder than it looks. A hard roll would be just the opposite. Elbow stays touching the knee the whole time, arm overhead. I come over, and then I come back. pushing off my hand or feet. It's getting your belly to work. Believe it or not, your abs will be on fire after doing a couple of those. Kettlebell breathing is very simple. I'm gonna take a weight. This is super fucking heavy. Start light. Feet go flat. All I'm gonna work on is breathing, right? Hands by your side. And trying to pull the kettlebell up, hollow out. Kettlebell up, kettlebell out. Big breath in, pushes the kettlebell or dumbbell up. Getting to work diaphragmatically. Crocodile breathing is the exact well, sort of similar. I'm just gonna lay flat, and I should work on just trying to push my belly into the floor. Right, it's hard to see, but you can hopefully tell when I breathe, it comes from the belly and not from the chest. Okay, it's hard to do, but like breathing from the belly. That's all it is. It's simple breathing mechanics is so important. So you've got quick recap. Most of the programs, mobility, mobility, mobility. Again, mobilizing in good positions, making sure they're getting after it should be pretty fucking painful. They should almost get a little sweaty just from the mobility. Static stability. So if we're working on shoulder stuff, you better bet that there's going to be some static stuff where we're holding overhead, holding in a press position, holding in a hang position or a press position, holding that and getting a nice tight posture. All we're doing is working on some isometric strength and then some dynamic stability. So dynamic stability for the shoulder would look like a press, or a row, or a Y, but the posture needs to remain. Butt on, belly tight, midline stability always. And then strength. Finally, maybe we'll just finish off with some bench presses, floor presses, squats, deadlifts, etc. to kind of write everything home. So the quick analogy to keep in mind is the mobility and the stability stuff. If you're a Word document, right, all these people are Word documents, they have tons of typos. So the mobility and dynamic stability stuff is fixing the typo. So it's gotta be perfect posture, it's gotta be perfect positioning. And then the strength stuff is pushing save. If they just close it, they just go home, they don't do any of the strength stuff, they're just gonna open the Word document, it's gonna be the same exact Word document. We need to do some strength stuff where it's heavy, but not violating the position. It's heavy enough where they can challenge their position, but not break it, to save, okay? So, again, postures and shoulder positions, and then working on some dynamic stuff on top of that. But always, 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 for the love of God, working on that midline stability.